Major, come on up here. How's everybody doing?
Good. Sir, how are you?
All right. Well, I don't have an opening statement or anything. You guys heard me in there. We're just proud to be back. Command Sgt. Major Schroeder, Senior Non-Commissioned Officer for CJTF 101, and also under 1st Airborne Division. And as you all know, we left here a year ago. It's been a very, very tough fight in Regional Command East. But we're happy to be back here. Had some great successes. Had some very low times as well with the loss of many soldiers. The impacts on the families, and some very wounded soldiers are doing, change their lives forever. But I would tell you the support that we had from back home and really from back around the Fort Campbell area has been just phenomenal. We appreciate that. We could feel it all the way over there in Afghanistan. We still have some folks in the fight, and we'll continue to keep them in our thoughts and prayers. But we will now start reintegration for the division headquarters, and all the brigades will start ramping back up again to get ready for our next rendezvous with Destiny, which will probably at some point in time, hopefully 2 years, be down the road for Afghanistan again. But I welcome any of your questions.
Tell us that, if you will, a little bit more about the progress report on what you guys accomplished or steps you took or any.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. We worked on really 4 different lines of operations: security, governance, development, and information operations. And in each one of those areas where we applied our resources, we could see pretty good growth in each one. Sometimes if you're down at the soldier level, it's sort of like Groundhog Day, and it's hard to see that progress. And many days it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Many days are very, very frustrating over there, dealing with some of the bureaucracy of the Afghan government, dealing with just being in combat, the fog of war there. But as we take a look back and where we applied our resources, which is really our forces, where we applied the civilians that worked with us, where we applied the law enforcement professionals, we could see great progress in the security and the governance and development. We had a huge civilian platform of about 140 plus civilians that worked really the governance and development for us. And that continued to work every day. But the first thing we had to do was get security. Once you got security, we really focused at the district level. Regional Command East is 14 different provinces. Think of those as states. And on each side of the provinces are districts. We had 160 districts. And we couldn't be everywhere at every time with the folks that we had. We had 8 million people, thereabouts. In the RC East, we had about 4 million. Yeah, that's not going to stay up. 4 million people in the capital. So we had about 12 to 13 million really around Regional Command East. That's out of the 29 million in Afghanistan. So about 40%, we kind of encompassed there. And what we did is we had these key terrain districts. We had 45 of those. There were 90 in all of Afghanistan. We had 45 of them in RC East. That's really where we focused. Those were on the population centers, around the economic corridors that they had. And where we focused our soldiers to build that security up around the local level, we could see great difference. Now, still very, very tough, and we probably took between 4,000 and 5,000 insurgents off the battlefield since last June, either killed or detained, captured. And so we made a difference there. A lot of that was the leadership as well, at the smaller and mid-level leadership. But RC East is very different from any other place here. The terrain, the weather, the politics, the tribal situation, the enemy. Many places it's just really the Taliban. In the East, we had the Taliban, we had Al-Qaeda, we had TTP, LET, a whole bunch of other acronyms, a smorgasbord enemy, to include probably the most lethal enemy, which is the Haqqani network coming out of Pakistan, Miram Shah, coming across the border in Host, Paktia, and Paktika, and killing innocent women and children, killing American soldiers, and we really had to work that very tough. 90% of the casualties, the civilian casualties in Afghanistan are caused by the insurgents. 90%, 9 out of 10. And we don't do a good, we don't send that message very well out there. But I would tell you, in the security realm, I felt very good about what we were able to accomplish. In the governance and development realm, the same thing. If you take a look at the metrics, whether it's kids in school, number of jobs, people working, freedom of movement between district centers, all those continue to go up. Now, that's not to say that it's still not a very dangerous place, and each area is different. But again, where we applied those resources, we could see absolutely progress being made every single day. Again, incremental progress, not irreversible, can still be reversed if we don't continue to keep the pressure on. But we went as a surge. Our 4th Brigade came in last August. We had 30,000 coalition forces there in RC East. And we're just now starting to see the impact of what that's been able to do in this comprehensive counterinsurgency. So very, very proud of the accomplishments, but at the same time, we know that's still a tough fight over there.
Sir, the division left a year ago with sort of an imperative to get things done in this year, and troop morale is still low. We've had a lot of casualties. Is it going to be a challenge for you to explain what the division has done and show those successes so that people understand exactly what you guys are fighting for?
Yeah, but I'd argue with it. I wouldn't say troop morale is low. I mean, I think it's completely wrong. If you take a look at re-enlistments over there, I did a day, Sergeant Major, I went down back in October. It was actually 10-10-10, so 10 October 2010 down with the Rocketsons. And we did a mass re-enlistment of 235 soldiers. 235 because that was the 235th year of our Army. And that's what they went toward. General Petraeus here a couple of weeks ago went up to one of our small cops and did 127 soldiers re-enlisted. We went over our re-enlistment numbers, and Sergeant Major will give you more detail, but we went over those a long time ago. And that's just one small but indicator of when soldiers, if their morale's down, they're not going to re-enlist. And they're not going to re-enlist for the unit of choice, which was 101st. So first of all, I'd argue that point, the morale's down. Was it very tough? Did we have soldiers hurt, killed? Yes, absolutely. That's what happens in war. And what I tell people is their sacrifice was not in vain. The mission that we have over there is very, very important. You know, there hadn't been another 9/11 event in the United States since we've had soldiers deployed forward in Afghanistan. We take that for granted. We live in the most dangerous times of our life, I feel. You know, during the Cold War, when you had nukes going back and forth, you had reasonable people that had a deterrence and understood that one got fired, and we didn't, it didn't happen. But today you have men and women that strap explosives onto a 12-year-old kid, let him walk into a bazaar and blow himself up and take out 15, 20 people. All right? And they want to do that in the United States. And because of forward presence, because of what your great soldiers, airmen, Marines, sailors, civilians do over there, that hasn't happened. And I think we lose track of that. You know, it's probably good that people go their daily lives day to day and don't have to worry about what's going on overseas, with the exception of maybe getting disrupted going through airport security or something. Right? But that's because you have great soldiers out there, you know, that volunteer to be in harm's way every single day. And so I'd absolutely argue about the morale piece. But we'll work very hard to make sure our soldiers continue to understand what they did, why they did it. I think if you ask them for a man, when they're down at the foxhole level, they're really focused on taking care of each other on their left and right. We had some very, very kinetic events. But you know, each time you go visit those soldiers after one of those things, they're there fighting for their buddy on their left and right. But maybe I'll let you.
The morale piece, it's just amazing. The difference between this deployment and other deployments or other units deploying was our division headquarters had our 1st Brigade fighting with us, our 3rd Brigade fighting with us, our 4th Brigade fighting with us. The sustainment was with us. Our 2nd Brigade was in the south with both of our cabs cycling through the south. And knowing that they had their leadership with them, that really helped morale. And you know, there are soldiers that are over on. We have about 120 cops in RCEs, and there are soldiers that are on the same cops that they were 2 years ago in a previous deployment, and they see progress. They see the progress. They see the progress in the communities that they're supporting. They see the progress in the ANSF, and when soldiers see that what they do makes a difference every day, that morale is high. Times are hard and morale's high. They share hard times together. And one of the greatest things, a couple of great things about the Army is it's not about what you're doing, it's about who you're doing it with. And it really makes a difference fighting the people on your left.
One more question.
General Campbell, what do you take as the most significant lesson that you've learned during this last year's deployment?
Most significant lessons learned? Well, there's a whole bunch of them out there. And as you know, the Army is we take a hard look at after-action reports. After every single operation we do one, we continue to try to get better. You know, I think I've been over to Afghanistan before as a brigade commander, as a colonel. What I took away from it is combat is very, very tough, very hard, but really the resiliency of our soldiers is incredible. The training that they have prior to going serves them well. The equipment that they have is the best in the world. You know, I think our nation does a great job of ensuring that we're manned, equipped, and trained, prepared properly to go into harm's way. I felt that every day over there. You know, the greatest thing for me before I went to bed each night was had I done everything I could do at my level to ensure that the units had the right resources to prosecute what they had to do the next day. So I felt that we continue to do that. I would tell you that it's still a very, very tough fight in Afghanistan. There's still a long way to go. We're going to continue to get lessons learned, whether it's looking at the insider threat. We've had several of those during the last several weeks where the enemy feels very, very threatened. And one way to attack is to steal or procure an Afghan army or police uniform and work their way into a copper fob, explode themselves or kill U.S. soldiers or Afghan soldiers or police to drive a wedge between the Afghans and the coalition forces, because they know that partnership is working. And so they're going to do whatever they can to drive that. We've seen that with 101st. We've lost several soldiers on the insider threat there. That's going to continue for a time. It's very, very hard to fight that, but we've got to continue to stay up on our piece. I'll take a couple more since they took the time to be here. Yeah.
Sir, how important is the infrastructure fix to the eventual end state that gets us out of Afghanistan?
Well, it's probably infrastructure, long-term basing, that kind of thing. We look at that all the time. General Phipps was my deputy that worked that with the folks out of IJC and ISAF, our higher headquarters. They take a hard look, working with our Afghan counterparts to make sure that we're doing within a plan that they want to have. Because again, at some point in time, we will come out of Afghanistan, and we have to make sure that we set them up for success. So we've taken a look at it. I don't want to go into great detail on what that is. What really made a huge difference, I think, for us over the last year. Prior to November, the talk was, hey, we're leaving in July 2011, and really our Afghan partners, although they understood we had an enduring relationship, that was still in the back of their mind. So they knew that at some point we were going to leave, maybe sooner than later. And the people too, they just want to be on the winning side. They've been at war for 30 plus years, so they're going to hedge their bets a little bit. After the November Lisbon conference, with General Petraeus worked really to the end of 2014, became really the mantra that we worked off of. Now there'll be some folks that come out. I don't know what those are. That's being worked at General Petraeus level on any kind of reductions as they work through that. And we didn't focus on that in RCEs. We continue to fight every day. I did realign forces in many places. We did close down some cops and FOBs. We did transfer some to Afghans, and that was all part of everyday business, looking toward the future. But I didn't really get into the big infrastructure where it would be. NTMA, which is a training authority led by Lieutenant General Caldwell there, looks hard at the training piece, and they really look hard at the infrastructure and what bases the Afghans will have down the road. But 99.99% of the Afghan people want the exact same thing all of you want for your families. They want a roof over their head, they want the next meal, they want a job, they want their kids to be able to go to school. The coalition forces and your 101st Airborne Division were able to really provide them that hope for a better future. So we feel pretty good about that.
General, pilots from here were involved in the bin Laden raid. The President was here. Your thoughts on 101st being involved in that, and what do you think that will mean to help fight this war?
For the Special Operating Forces, for the 160th, all the folks, the intelligence community, I think what it shows people is when the United States says they're going to do something, they're going to stick to it. Perseverance, after 10 years of gathering intel, continue to work that very hard. I got asked many times after that, did it make a difference inside of Afghanistan? And I think it was too early to tell. I think down the road we will see some impact there. I think there is impact on the Al-Qaeda organization itself as far as recruiting, as far as fundraising. There may be people out there, as they saw those pictures of bin Laden sitting in a room kind of lonely and desperate, looking at a picture of himself there, and they're thinking, hey, why am I over here in Afghanistan fighting when my leadership is all over in Pakistan like that? So I think long term we're going to see a little bit more effect, but one man does not make a war. There'll be somebody that steps up to take bin Laden's place. But again, I think what you saw was a perseverance, and really, President Bush said a long time ago, we will not falter, we will not fail, we will not tire. And it took a little bit of time, but the U.S. continued to work that piece very hard. We have to be very proud of the intel community, the special operations community, and all of our military that really worked that hard for the last 10 plus years. All right, last one, because my family's out there waiting too. Okay, for
What are you looking forward to the most now that you're back? And I don't mean military stuff, I mean...
I'll let the Sergeant Major answer. What are you looking forward to?
I think he hinted when he said his family's out there waiting. What are you looking
Sergeant, he's looking forward to it. He just got his bike fixed. I think he's going to go biking.
What are we looking for? We're looking forward to having some time with our family and getting back to work and taking care of soldiers and making sure our systems are there to support our soldiers and their families.
Yeah, this is what we do. Sergeant Major, I'll go next week to Walter Reed and Bethesda up in D.C. to see our wounded warriors and see the folks who are up there. We'll get a trip down to BAMC, down to Texas to see them down there. We got many soldiers that their lives are changed forever based on this fight. We have the best medical care in the world, we really do. Last night, we stopped in Ramstein and went over to Landstuhl, which is the regional medical center, and spent a couple hours over there walking around the halls, thanking the staff and the nurses and the doctors for the great support they've given to the 101st over the last year, because we sent many folks through there. Then we got a chance to see many of the patients, some who we had just seen the night or 2 nights before at Bagram. Every night, the Sergeant Major and I would go to Bagram. It was a good night when we didn't have to, but on the nights when we had to, we'd talk to the soldiers and present Purple Hearts. And, many times there were days that those numbers were large, and then we hit some time frames that continue to go down. And it's going to be that way. It's still a tough fight out there. We shouldn't sugarcoat it. The enemy's going to come back very hard. They're going to try to get back the gains that they lost over the fall and the spring time frame. But we had a huge spring campaign that we've been fighting very hard. Over the winter, we really stayed at it. The number of caches, so munitions, IEDs, homemade explosives, and weapons that we found was double what we found at the same time the year before. November, December, January, that critical time of the winter when people think that the enemy goes down, they don't fight. We continued the offense, and we thought that the best defense was an offense in depth all the way from the border of Pakistan all the way to Kabul. In those 3 months alone, 276% increase in the number of caches. That's pretty huge. And we saw that in the spring. The insurgents said, "Hey, 1 May, we're starting our spring offensive, and we're not going to attack civilians. We're really going to go after it." On 1 May, what they do, they put explosives on a 12-year-old kid, walked him in a bazaar, and he blew himself up, killed 7 civilians, wounded about 14. All right, and then over the next couple of days, we just didn't see that spike. And we think part of that is because, one, the great coalition forces that are there and the training and then continue to stay at it, and two, the ANSF, the Afghan Security Forces, their capability continue to rise the whole time we're there. When we partnered with them, and the Sergeant Major out there every single day, take a look how they partnered, and taking lessons learned, which units did that best, and transferring to those other units. Where we were what we call Shona by Shona, shoulder to shoulder with them every single day. They continue to get better. And as I leave Afghanistan, I've left Afghanistan now, I'm very optimistic for the future of Afghanistan and feel very good about the future, although I know it's going to continue to be tough. We think we set the groundwork for a new way there. So, again, thank you very much for your continued support, getting the word out of here, and hopefully we'll be here for a little bit, but thanks for your great support. Mayor Sullivan.
Thank you.